The heavy oak doors creaked open as little Lily Morgan, only 5 years old, stepped cautiously into the courtroom, her sneakers making soft squeaks on the polished floor. In her small hand, she held tightly to a thick black leash. At the other end of it was Bear, a seasoned German shepherd with a silver-gray muzzle and a scar that traced down his side like a forgotten war story. The room fell into a hush, heads turning in slow succession to watch the fragile child and her noble companion walk toward the witness stand. Every step Lily took was slow, deliberate, as though the air itself resisted her movement. Judge Harold Whitaker leaned forward on his bench, adjusting his spectacles, his expression unreadable but alert. He presided over thousands of cases in his decades of service, but he knew instinctively this case was different. The truth rested on the shoulders of a silent child and her watchful dog. At the defense table sat the accused, Owen Preston. His appearance was perfectly tailored, his wire-framed glasses perched neatly on his nose. A quiet software engineer by trade, Preston had the look of someone who couldn't possibly hurt a soul. But behind his calm veneer was a man charged with attempting to abduct Lily. And though the evidence was circumstantial, no DNA, no fingerprints, no confession, his case was hanging by a thread. The prosecution's last witness was this tiny girl with haunted eyes. As Lily climbed into the large wooden chair, her fingers trembled slightly on the leash. She looked at Preston. Their eyes met. Something unseen passed between them. A flicker. Her fingers made a barely noticeable motion, small and calculated, one she had been taught by her therapist. To most, it meant nothing. But Bear's body snapped into attention. His ears shot up. His muscles tensed. A low, primal growl rumbled from deep within his chest. The courtroom shifted in energy. People leaned in. Breath was held. It wasn't just that the dog had responded. It was how he responded. Bear didn't bark at strangers. He didn't growl at passers-by. This was recognition. This was fear turned protective. Judge Whitaker's gavel came down with a sharp crack. 15-minute recess, he announced, voice clipped with tension. He stood quickly and left the bench, his mind racing. Outside the courtroom, Lily crouched beside Bear, her arms wrapped tightly around his thick neck. Her mother, Vanessa Morgan, knelt beside her, trying to stay strong. "Baby, are you okay?" Vanessa's voice cracked around the edges. Lily didn't answer. She just buried her face deeper into Bear's fur. From the side, FBI agent Logan Shaw watched them quietly. He glanced at Judge Whitaker, who stood nearby rubbing his temples. "Something set that dog off," Shaw murmured. "I'd stake my badge on it. That guy Preston knows Bear. And Bear sure as hell knows him." In a private room just down the hallway, the accused no longer wore the smug calm that had carried him through the last few days of proceedings. Owen Preston's knees bounced nervously as his attorney, Malcolm Reyes, tried to reason with him. "She saw something," Preston whispered, staring at his hands. "The dog. I didn't account for the dog." Reyes pressed for clarity, but Preston waved him off, consumed by something else. Something he hadn't expected to haunt him so powerfully. Just a few months earlier, Lily had been a vibrant, bubbly child. She loved dressing up like princesses, reading bedtime stories, and chasing butterflies in her backyard. Her laughter used to echo through the house like music. But that all changed one quiet spring afternoon. Vanessa had been on the phone in the kitchen, watching Lily through the glass patio doors as she played near the garden. She turned away only for 4 minutes. When she returned, the gate was ajar. A black van idled near the sidewalk. A man was kneeling beside Lily. "I have puppies," he said gently. "Do you want to come see them?" Vanessa screamed her daughter's name. The man's smile faded. He reached out and grabbed Lily's arm. She froze, too scared to react. Across the street, 73-year-old retired Nurse Dolores Haverly witnessed the scene unfold through her front window. "Hey, get away from that little girl," she bellowed as she burst out of her door. Startled, the man hesitated. Lily wrenched herself free and sprinted into her mother's arms. In a blink, the black van peeled off down the road. The police arrived within minutes, but by then, the man was gone. The case was handed over to the FBI, and Agents Shaw and Dana Cole took the lead. Their investigation quickly revealed disturbing parallels to other abduction attempts, always a black van, always the promise of puppies, and always children disappearing without a trace. But Lily wouldn't talk. Not about that day. Not about anything. She withdrew into silence, her voice trapped somewhere behind the fear. Vanessa and her husband, Jason, tried therapy after therapy, but nothing seemed to reach their daughter until the child psychologist recommended something different. A therapy dog. Enter Bear. Once a police canine, he had taken down traffickers and protected fellow officers during raids. But his last mission ended with a deep gash and months of painful recovery. Deemed unfit for duty, he was nearly put down until animal therapist Dr. Charlotte Ames rescued him, believing he still had more to give. When Lily first met Bear, she sat several feet away, curled into herself. Bear didn't approach. He lay down, his eyes gentle, his breathing calm. Day after day, she came to see him. No words, just presence. And then one afternoon, Lily whispered the first word she had spoken in weeks. "Good boy." Tears filled Vanessa's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was something. Bear had reached a place no human could. Slowly, Lily began to speak again, to smile, to feel safe. And now, they were here, in a courtroom where the truth was being measured in shadows and silence. As proceedings resumed, Prosecutor Camille Archer began calling her remaining witnesses. Dolores Haverly's testimony was powerful. She described the attempted abduction, the black van, and her confrontation with the suspect. When asked if she could identify the man, she pointed confidently at Preston. Still, the defense pushed back. Without forensic evidence, it was all hearsay. Until Lily was called to the stand again. She held Bear's leash like a lifeline. Her lips were pressed tight. Camille crouched to her eye level. "Lily, can you tell us who was with you that day in the garden?" Lily glanced at her parents. Then she looked at Bear. The silence stretched. And then she raised her hand and pointed at Owen Preston. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The defense objected. Judge Whitaker overruled. Then came the signal. A subtle, specific motion of Lily's hand. Bear responded instantly. The growl that followed echoed like a warning bell through the courtroom. His hackles rose. His teeth bared. His eyes fixed unwaveringly on Preston. The judge leaned in. "Ms. Archer," he said, "has this dog ever encountered the defendant prior to this trial?" "No, Your Honor." "Mr. Preston," Whitaker asked, "have you met this animal before?" Preston didn't answer. He clenched his fists and looked down. Court recessed again. Meanwhile, Agent Shaw and his team were combing through new leads. Using soil samples found in Preston's van, they traced it to an area deep in the state's northern woods. There, tucked between tall pine trees and overgrown brush, they found an old hunting cabin. It was empty at first glance, but Shaw noticed something wrong with the floorboards. Beneath a trapdoor, a makeshift basement reeked of mildew and despair. Inside were torn backpacks, worn-out shoes, and stuffed animals left behind by the missing. Crayon drawings on the wall revealed stories of fear and hope and the name Sophie. And in the corner, curled into herself like a wounded bird, was Sophie Levinson. Missing for 6 months. She was alive. Shaw knelt beside her carefully. "You're safe now," he whispered. "We've got you." Tears streaked Sophie's dirt-smeared cheeks. Bear, who had been brought along, let out a gentle whimper and walked forward to nuzzle her gently. She didn't flinch. She smiled a tired, broken smile and collapsed into his side. News of Sophie's rescue shattered the courtroom like thunder. Camille Archer returned with renewed fire. "Your Honor," she said firmly, "the defendant's DNA was found on restraints in the cabin. His tires matched the tracks outside. Sophie Levinson is ready to testify. We rest our case." Preston went pale. His hands trembled. He looked from Sophie's image on the courtroom monitor to Lily, sitting with Bear at her side. And Bear stirred again. No signal this time, just instinct. The growl began deep in his chest, louder than before, full of warning and fury. Everyone turned. Preston flinched. Then he spoke barely. I want to change my plea. The silence was deafening. Mr. Preston, Judge Whitaker said carefully, are you stating under oath that you wish to plead guilty? Preston swallowed. Yes. Camille's breath hitched. Lily looked up at Bear. Vanessa gasped. Judge Whitaker's gavel came down once more. Owen Preston, you are hereby sentenced to life in federal prison, with no possibility of parole. May the lives you've damaged begin to heal in your absence. And just like that, it was over. But not really, because the real story wasn't about a courtroom, or even a monster unmasked. It was about a little girl and a dog. It was about trauma turned into strength, silence into truth. After the trial, Lily spoke more freely. She laughed again. She even played in the yard. But every night before bed, she knelt beside Bear, wrapped her arms around him, and whispered two simple words. Thank you. He would wag his tail and rest beside her bed, watching over her like the guardian he had always been. Some heroes don't need badges or medals. Some heroes simply growl when no one else can speak. And some bonds, especially the ones forged in darkness, are impossible to break.